the most stacked division in boxing. Sebastian Fundora successfully defended his WBO and WBC belts and is looking for mega fights for the rest of 2025. 4 rounds is all it took for Fundora to get the job done.
I mean, to be honest, to me, it was a little bit of a mismatch.
This is a statement for all the other guys at 154, not even the champions. There's a lot of contenders that are asking for a shot.
I mean, you got Mortazaliev, the other champion at that division. You got Virgil Ortiz as well. And then you got Xander Zayas.
Xander Zayas, he's actually ranked the number 1 for the WBO. And even after the fight against Booker, they met up in person, kind of talked about, having that fight next. But now moving forth to this rematch featuring William Zepeda taking on Tevin Farmer. Last time we saw them fight was a very controversial fight. Tevin Farmer, of all people, knocked down William Zepeda. Zepeda definitely has to put up a huge performance this weekend, and if he's not able to do it, you're not going to be a match for Shakur or for any of the champions at 135. Welcome back to another episode of the Last Round Podcast, where we cover everything from traditional boxing to influencer boxing and everything in between. In today's episode, we'll be going over Sebastian Fundora successfully defending his WBO and WBC belts, as well as going over the return of George Kambosos and giving our official prediction for the rematch between Tevin Farmer and William Zepeda. But before we get into the episode, make sure to like and subscribe and follow us on all forms of social media. Lastly, we're trying to build up a community on Discord, and you guys joining would be greatly appreciated. And now, diving into the episode, first things first, the return of Sebastian Fundora. Last time we saw the Towering Inferno was last year, back in March, against Tim Tszyu in a bloodbath of a contest where Sebastian Fundora came away with the split decision win over Tim Tszyu and successfully becoming the new champion. Since then, he's acquired another belt and he's now the official unified champion at 154. And this past weekend, we saw his return as he successfully defeated Chordell Booker in 4 rounds.
Yeah, very impressive, and like we were talking about last episode, he needed this type of performance. This is a statement for all the other guys at 154, not even the champions. There's a lot of contenders that are asking for a shot at Sebastian Fundora. He has 2 of the belts, and he showed that, he is getting better. He's improving, and it was a great performance by him.
Yeah, for me, he did what he needed to do. And just going based off of what you said, I'm curious. I was kind of surprised to see just the amount of people that were calling to fight for one of the Fundora's belt. You got Mortazaliev, the other champion at that division. You got Virgil Ortiz as well. And then you got Xander Zayas, who is like an up and coming top contender for one of the belts. So it was pretty interesting to see how the whole division wants to fight Fundora.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, in the aspect of Xander Zayas, he's actually ranked the number 1 for the WBO. And this past weekend, we also got the WBO came out and said that Terrence Crawford was going to be vacating his interim belt for the WBO, therefore making Xander Zayas pretty much essentially the mandatory next challenger to face Sebastian Fundora. And even after the fight against Booker, they had a little not face off, but they had they met up in person, kind of talked about having that fight next. Yeah. So Xander Zayas at the moment is eyeing for a world title shot, and he's eyeing Sebastian Fundora. So that's very interesting to see, especially since we know how Zayas earlier a couple months ago was calling out Virgil Ortiz, and also claiming that Virgil Ortiz took the easier route by fighting Madrimov and not fighting him.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of crazy talk by Xander Zayas. I like him. I think he's been building himself up for quite a while. Started at 147, right? And then, he got too big, went up to 154. And, he's been fighting fights, but I don't know. It's a big step up for him, So if he believes he's confident in it, I'm not sure if that's the biggest fight to be made. I still don't think he has the biggest name yet, but he was being hailed as the next Tito Trinidad, the next Puerto Rican superstar, and it looks like he wants to achieve that by getting a world title.
Yeah, I feel like Zayas is a little bit delusional because I mean, I feel like him being over there with Top Rank, he's been a little bit protected, and I think it's kind of like got into his head because I mean, if you just look at his opponent selection or his resume, it's not the best. You know, he still hasn't fought against a guy who is super dangerous. He hasn't fought a guy who's given him problems, and he's overcome those problems. So I think it's all just kind of like him thinking that he's a shit now. But I mean, if I was Fundora, I don't even think he's interested in that fight because even in the locker room, it wasn't even Fundora who turned down the face-off. It was Fundora's little sister that was like, no, Zayas, we're not going to do that. No, you can't do that. Yeah, so I feel like Fundora and his team, they have bigger fish to fry. There's bigger money fights than Zayas fight.
Well, yeah, during the post-fight interview after the fight, Sebastian pretty much stated, he wants the big names, and I mean, he called out Mortazaliev. Of course, he brought out Ortiz. He even called out Zayas as well. But I feel like that kind of stems from the fact that Zayas, like I mentioned, is the number one contender for the WBO. And now that Crawford vacated his interim, that fight seems more likely to happen sometime soon. I don't know if it'll be next, but yeah, for sure Zayas at the moment right now is eyeing for that world title shot. But I agree with you. I do not think he's ready for that shot yet. If you look at, like you said, his opponent selection, not the best. I feel he still needs a couple more fights against better opponents. I mean, you look at Virgil Ortiz and the way that he's been managing his career. Like I mentioned in the last episode, he's taken out Bohachuk, Madrimov, and there was talks between Ortiz and Mortazaliev. So you look at the caliber of opposition that they're fighting, and you for sure have to ask some questions regarding Zayas if he's actually ready to take on the 6'6" towering inferno in Sebastian Fundora. But no, so yes, Sebastian Fundora. Let's talk more in the aspect of the fight. 4 rounds is all it took for Fundora to get the job done. And last week we talked about what we kind of wanted to see from Fundora. Like we mentioned, he likes fighting in the inside. He's fairly good at it, but he has, I mean, enough physical advantages to fight on the outside. And that's exactly what we saw this past weekend against Booker, where we saw Fundora establishing the jab, keeping his range, and ultimately finishing off Booker with a beautiful combination segments. And there was nothing Booker could do. Of course, we talked about how we needed Sebastian to look good in order to, not be like that, like a fish around sharks, because all the other contenders have been calling out for Fundora. So if they were to see a little chink in the armor, they were for sure going to pounce on it. But Fundora did a good job. Got the job done. Did it pretty easily. And it looks like he's still growing as a fighter. And he's definitely now completed the first task in defending his belts.
Yeah, he definitely. I mean, what I was most impressed about was just the amount of volume that he was throwing. A lot of punches and just marching forward. No respect for Booker and his power at all. I think that's good. I don't know how effective that's going to be, when he starts stepping up towards more power punchers at the 154 division, and also guys like Virgil Ortiz that want to clash with you and meet you head to head. So that's going to be interesting. But so we'll see. I think it was still a good performance. He still showed that, he's a tough guy at 154. He's not just a pushover. Because maybe some people might think that because, he's been knocked out before brutally against Brian Mendoza. And Tim Tszyu was lighting him up in the early half of their fight with that right hand. But no, I don't think Sebastian Fundora is just a guy that you're going to walk over.
No, any of these other champions or any of these other top elite contenders at that division are going to have a tough time going up against Fundora. I mean, Fundora did his thing against Booker. Booker was a guy who was ranked top 10 in 2 of the organizations, sanctioning bodies. And I mean, to be honest, to me, it was a little bit of a mismatch. I think this fight was just for him to kind of get things warmed up, get the ball rolling for bigger and better things. And last episode I was saying that I wanted to see a little bit more of the jab from Fundora, but I just don't think that's just within his style. I really don't think. I think he just loves to be within mid-range, close range, and he actually has decent power for a guy who has like 0 muscle. So, I mean, it's going to be a dangerous fight. Whoever his opponent his next opponent is, they're gonna have a tough time. And I want to go back to what I said. I was very surprised that everyone was still calling him out. I mean, I want to say go back to like when Teofimo Lopez fought George Kambosos. Kambosos, once he beat him, I swear everyone at 135 was calling for Kambosos to fight him because, Kambosos isn't really, the top guy, even though he was the undisputed world champion. But no, so that just kind of blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah, and opponent-wise, next for Fundora, it kind of depends on what he wants to do. If he wants to go undisputed, he already has 2 of the 4. He just needs 2 more, right? So if that's what's on his mind, a Mortazalia fight, or who's the other world champion?
Crawford.
Okay, so Crawford, he's gonna vacate that, so. It's pretty close for him. It's achievable.
Well, technically, he's the top dog then, honestly. Like, he can fight whoever he wants. He doesn't have to, like, fight for a world championship bout. He can fight another guy that's top 10 within sanctioning body if he wanted to, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he also mentioned talking about fighting Earl Spence. So Earl Spence kind of still lingering the name around there, even though he hasn't fought in over a year and a half now.
He's become the guy that just like tweets out some like wisdom.
Yeah, he became wise. After
he became
the fight.
wise. He's talking about the worst thing I did as an athlete was drink alcohol.
He's giving advice to the youth, man. But yeah, so like I said, Earl Spence, the name still kind of lingers around there. I feel like that fight would be very unlikely for Sebastian's next fight, but it's still a name that's still around there that they kind of like to draw out in case Earl Spence does decide to come out of his not retirement,
semi-retirement.
So, yeah, at this point. But yes, Sebastian Fundora, Mortazalia gave him congrats and then also called him out. I saw Virgil Ortiz congratulate him on the win. But a big name that we haven't mentioned was El Mono Ramos. Mm-hmm. He fought on the undercard as the co-main event against Schramm, who was a 3-week late minute opponent. He came in to fill the gap. Last time we saw Schramm was on Pro Box TV, where he got brutally knocked out by the Pro Box legend Vladimir Hernandez.
Hell yeah.
So it was kind of interesting to see Schramm, even after getting brutally knocked out, go in and fight a bigger step up in El Mono Ramos. And El Mono Ramos is a man in form. His last fight was like a month and a half ago, where he took out Banana Man Rosario, and now he's fighting again. So he's very active, very sharp, and he showcased it again. Shout out to Schramm, though, because even though he got brutally knocked out by Vladimir in his last outing, he went toe-to-toe with Ramos. He got whooped, but like he took that beating like a man, bro. He was taking some heavy leather, and I'm surprised. He's got a strong chin, man. A very strong chin. The only thing that stopped him was the referee. But he stayed on his feet the entire time and showcased that he's a tough guy. So shout out to Schramm, but then again, El Mono Ramos is a legitimate contender, one who for sure within hopefully this year is able to get at least an interim shot at one of the belts, because he's currently ranked number 4 for the WBA, number 8 for the IBF, number 4 for the WBC, and he's number 8 for the WBOs.
Yeah,
so he's top 10,
top contender. Yeah, and he's a tough guy. I like him because he kind of keeps his head down and fights and wins. But I don't feel like he's like calling anyone out. He's not overly charismatic and trying to make big fights happen. I feel like he does his own thing, and he's just climbing up the ranks, and eventually they're gonna have to give him a shot.
Well, actually, he called out Fundora before on Saturday. He was like, if I win and then Fundora wins, I would like to fight him next. So he's just another guy within the 154-pound division that just called Fundora out as well. And I think Fundora is also another. It would be another tough challenge. It would be a great fight. Both guys are elite fighters. They're both southpaws, and it looks like Jesus Ramos at the young age of 24 seems to be very much acclimated at 154. He seems pretty much established. He seems to be growing into that manpower already at such a young age, and he looks super calm, man. Like, he just has pretty much a high ring IQ. He's just so calm in there. He's so collected in there, and he also has a pretty good ring IQ as well. So there's another guy that I would like to see him fight for a world title or fight for against another champion.
Yeah. The thing I like about El Mono Ramos is his punch selection. I mentioned it before, and I'll mention it again. Against Schramm, I mean, I think it was 4 rounds in, and he had already had around like 40 some body shots in there. He was absolutely ripping that body, and he does a good job working the body. I mean, his dimensions are crazy. He's got long arms. He's able to, throw his punches from a very a far range, and he's still able to connect. But like you said, his IQ mixed in with his punch selection makes him a very tough opponent to beat. He's also very active, therefore he's very sharp in there. Of course, the big step up he had was against Hammer, Erickson Lubin, which he did lose. A lot of people were very disappointed with the judging scoring for that one, claiming it was a robbery. Close fight. I don't think it was a robbery, but it was a close fight. But since then, Mono Ramos has been back in the ring. He's been very active. My only issue would be the opponent selection. I mean, Banana Rosario, not the same fighter he was back coming up in 2018, 17, 18.
That was like 2020 or 2019 when he was like the peak of his career.
It's been a while.
But it was also funny because it was a 160. Randomly, Mono Ramos went up to 160 just to get that fight.
And then also Schramm, of course, it was a switching opponent, last minute replacement too. But Schramm at the same time, like I mentioned, I mean, he's clearly not the level. He was kind of only there to kind of test the conditioning of El Mono Ramos to see what he actually had. So that's my only critique would be the opponent selection. Feels like they're just trying to build him up and at least just stay active. But then again, I want to see a step up now for El Mono Ramos. He had to step up against Lubin, came up short. Fair enough. Now he's built himself a couple good wins against lesser opposition. Therefore, I think now if he really wants a shot at one of the champions, he's got to step it up. Like Virgil Ortiz has been stepping it up against these big name fighters. So, like I said, if Ramos wants a shot at the title, he needs to definitely step up his opponent selection.
Definitely another dangerous contender at the 154. I feel like that division is so deep. There's so much great fighters there. I mean, maybe in next year there's going to be completely new world champions. It might be like the 140 division where like a title holder just gets the belt and then loses it in his first defense, gets the belt, loses it in his first defense. Because I could definitely see that happening. There's a lot of big names in there.
Well, I mean, the WBA for sure is going to be vacated. Crawford going up to 168. He already vacated the WBO interim. I feel like it's only a matter of time before the WBA either strips him off of it or Crawford voluntarily vacates it. So the WBA for sure is for me it's the sanctioning body that I'm kind of looking more into because I want to see what they do, see if they actually strip him or if Crawford vacates. And I feel like that'd be perfect if Crawford leaves the belt there because then we can get the ball rolling again, have a new WBA champion who's going to stay at 154, and then you're going to see a lot more a lot of these contenders who are trying to fight for a world title get a shot for the WBA. So definitely the 154, the most stacked division in boxing. Sebastian Fundora successfully defended his WBO and WBC belts and is looking for mega fights for the rest of 2025. So that was our thoughts and opinions about the return of Sebastian Fundora. Now going down in weight to the 140, actually, George Kambosos made his official debut at super lightweight, and he won. I'm surprised. Not really. His opponent was a 3-day late minute replacement, so not the ideal opponent.
Well, and I think it's funny that his opponent actually had purchased tickets to go watch him fight.
Yeah.
No way.
He said that he had gotten tickets to go watch Kambosos fight, and then the opponent fell through that Kambosos was gonna originally fight, and so then Eddie Hearn just called him up and was like, "Hey, do you want to fight?" And he goes, "Yeah, okay."
Yeah. So
hopefully he got that refund.
Yeah, right. Jake Wyllie, I believe his
Jake
name.
Wyllie?
I think so. Or Wyllie. I'm not sure. I'll call Jake. It's Jake. My bad. Jake Wyllie. I'll call him Jake Wyllie. I don't like Willie. Jake Wyllie came out last minute replacement and took on George Kambosos. George Kambosos, last time we saw him, he fought Lomachenko and got got stopped in the 11th round. And Lomachenko became the new IBF world title champion at 135, and he's yet to return. Yeah. But George Kambosos officially made his debut at 140, and he got that UD win. George Kambosos, when it came to him winning, I mean, he hadn't won since Maxi Hughes. And that was a majority decision. And in my opinion, he lost that fight. That fight, okay, first, that fight was so random because Maxi Hughes, okay, you're fighting for him, whatever. But then again, like, why are you fighting in in Oklahoma, I believe, of all places to fight, to host a top ranked show? They fight in Oklahoma, so that was like the most random fucking fight. And also the fight in general, I think Maxi Hughes was robbed from that win. And George Kambosos, I mean, he's fought big names. I mean, Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney twice, Lomachenko. Of course, he's came up short against every one of them besides Teofimo Lopez, which people are claiming it's a fluke win.
Listen, Teofimo Lopez couldn't breathe. There was something wrong with his lungs, dude, okay? We don't talk about that performance.
No, we got to redact that performance from modern day memory.
From the history, it's gone forever.
Well, Kambosos returned, got the win, UD win back in Australia against Jake Wyllie, and he's looking for a shot at the IBF champion, who is Richardson Hitchins, the current champion. So, what do you guys think about that matchup?
I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what to think about George Kambosos. He's such a wild card to me. I think this is a pretty big sentiment, especially in boxing, is that for a guy with his skills, it's so surprising that he was able to have so much success. I like to say he was undisputed at 135, but technically, I think that the WBC, he didn't have the WBC. But I mean, he had 3 of the 4 major belts at least. He's also fought a lot of big names, and he's kind of talked about as like an elite level guy. But his skills, I don't know. His skills just I never felt very impressed by him. But this performance definitely was one of the better performances he's had recently. At least he was able to showcase some heavy punches. There was some times where he was letting his hands go, and there were some hard punches on Wyllie. So shout out to Wyllie for 3 days notice and taking some big shots from Kambosos. But Kambosos, he seems he wants that world title fight. He wants Richardson Hitchins, but I'm not sure if he can beat him.
Yeah, for me, you said that he did a pretty good job against Wyllie, but for me, I figured as a guy who Kambosos has fought against elite fighters, I figured that he would be a little bit better, especially because Jake Wyllie was like a 3, 4, 5 day opponent replacement. So I figured that he was going to be a little bit better. He was going to do a little bit better, but I mean, that's not how it turned out. And personally for me, I feel like for Kambosos, for his boxing career, it's been going pretty good as a guy who is a B-level fighter. And, he's gotten a lot of money. He's sold out Australia. But I just feel like maybe, I don't know, man. At 140, I don't really even see him being a threat to anyone. Even just the top 10 contenders for the sanctioning bodies, for sure he's not beating any of the champions. And I know that Eddie Hearn said that in the summer he's going to fight Hitchinson. I don't see him beating Hitchinson at all, like whatsoever. I'm guessing it's going to be a clean sheet victory for Hitchinson. But I'm not sure. Like I don't really see Kambosos going that far at that new weight class. But.
Oh, also, because I saw Eddie Hearn say pretty much that the fight for Kambosos and Hitchins is pretty much completed. It's probably going to be next during the summer. But then again, I'm like, okay, Hitchins, he's aiming towards Kambosos. They've been having back and forth on X, talking shit to one another. But then Hitchins, where's that energy from my boy Subriel Matias?
Bro, my goodness.
No, hear me out. Subriel Matias is the number 1 ranked contender for the IBF. Kambosos is the number 3. And you're telling me that Hitchins has all this energy for Kambosos, but where's that energy from my boy Subriel Matias, who let's not forget, has been stringing up a couple wins in there, building himself right back up to a contender level, and he's now ranked number 1 according to the IBF. So if anyone should have a shot at Hitchins next, shouldn't it be Subriel Matias, the Puerto Rican superstar, the boogeyman of the 140, or should it be Kambosos, who just barely made his debut at 140?
You find any way to bring in Matias at the 140 landscape. Listen, I didn't actually know he was ranked number 1. That's actually interesting. I guess, technically, if you're ranked number 1, I feel like you should get the shot first, But Matias does he talk a lot? He's not really that popular, I feel.
Not really, no. But I feel like, look, I'm gonna give a little bit of a leeway for Hitchinson because he just won this title fight. So as someone who just wins a belt, like I give a little bit of a leeway for the champion. Like if he wants to fight for another, he wants to defend his title against a lesser contender, go for it, whatever.
Well, yeah, it's because that fight with Kambosos is so much easier. Because we've seen Hitchinson, if I can remember correctly, struggle.
It's Hitchins.
It's Hitchins? I thought it was Hitchinson.
Richardson Hitchins.
My God. Wow. It's Hitchins. Okay, Hitchins. I've seen Hitchins. We saw him struggle very, very hard against Lemos. And Lemos was a guy that was pressuring you. He packs a punch. And I know right now his name is kind of, on shaky legs because he got absolutely destroyed by Keyshawn Davis in like 3 rounds. But Lemos is a good fighter, very, very solid fighter, and he gave Hitchins a run for his money. He was going at him, pressuring him, and not letting him do the regular boxing type of style that Hitchins loves. So for stylistically, I think Matias is similar to that, where he's just gonna put pressure on you. He's gonna use his head as his shield, as his defense, run forward, and Hitchins doesn't really have the pop to really get Matias off of him. So, but for Kambosos, I feel like that's his kryptonite. Look at Devin Haney; he just completely whooped him, just outboxing him on the outside. And I think the same way would go if in a fight between Kambosos and Hitchins.
Yeah, I agree. Hitchins is targeting Kambosos, the easier job, the easier work right there. Kambosos, respect to him, keeps getting these big fights. Yeah. He's getting another shot at a new weight division against a new champion in Hitchins. He's going to get a good payday out of it. And if he loses, so be it. He'll at least say, yeah, I had the balls to take on these champions. And even though I came up short, a lot of these other guys in the division aren't calling for them. And so, what can I say? I'm a warrior. He's always about the whole warrior mentality. So I respect
the art of war.
He's always talking about the Spartan, right?
The Spartan, yeah. So I respect Kambosos in that aspect. He's willing to catch the smoke with anyone. But I do believe Hitchins is picking him strategically to kind of get to at least defend his belt once. And then if the IBF doesn't push for Subriel Matias to get a shot at Hitchins next after Kambosos, then I'm going to say that the IBF is corrupt.
Yeah, and I think it's funny too because if I'm not mistaken, all 3 men that we just named, Kambosos, Hitchins, and Matias, aren't they promoted by the same promoter, Eddie Hearn?
I'm not sure about Matias with Eddie Hearn anymore. I think they might have dropped him after Liam Paro.
Don't they have like a co-promotion though?
Something like that. I really don't know the full details. People were claiming after Matias lost against Paro, because then Matias came out and fought in like a more low-key kind of card. They're saying, did he get dropped? And he's been fighting. He fought on the zone, but he hasn't been fighting on Matchroom specifically. So people are claiming that he got dropped, or just I don't know what their deal is with the with their contract. But yeah, Subriel Matias, if he's able to fight again and get a win, I'm sure Eddie Hearn would be more likely to listen and at least offer him a shot at Hitchins, because Hitchins is managed by Eddie Hearn. So
listen, Pablo, you've been talking about that Matias title run for ever since he lost it. So you're gonna get proven right? Can he beat Hitchins?
Yes, I do think he beats Hitchins. I think what you said was completely true, that Hitchins does struggle with a fighter who applies pressure to you, and not just a fighter who applies pressure, but one who has heavy hands. And Matias has shown that every single win that he has, he wins by knockout. So he's a heavy-handed pressure fighter. Of course, his defense is very questionable. His last fight against Valenzuela was definitely not the best defensive showing from Matias, but he got the stoppage, he got the whooping on Valenzuela. So Matias definitely has the style to give Hitchins problems, and I think he has the style to beat Hitchins. And I mean, there's always that clip of Hitchins claiming, "Oh, I would never fight Matias," which I don't know why he would say that on tape like that, because it's come back to haunt him multiple times. And it's so funny because, he said he'd never fight Matias. Matias is a scary man. And now you have Matias as your number 1 ranked contender for your belt. So sooner or later, you're going to have to take on Matias. So Hitchins, I'm surprised he even said those things live on camera. But it's one that it might come back to bite him in the ass if he refuses to fight Matias next.
Well, listen, I mean, Paro showed us a little blueprint, you know what I'm saying? And so if Hitchins is smart, he has to watch that tape, watch it multiple times, because it's a completely different, styles make fights. You could say, oh, Hitchins beat Paro and Paro beat Matias, therefore, but that's not how it works. That's not how boxing works. You can't do boxing math, it doesn't add up. So styles, we have to take styles into consideration, and I think it is true. Very dangerous stylistic matchup for Hitchins, and one that psychology wise, I mean, he doesn't like it himself. So very, very interesting to see what he does. Yo,
that's so crazy. You said boxing math just doesn't work out. Boxing math is like girl math almost. It just doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense. No.
Yeah, and I feel like after this fight with Kambosos and Wyllie, I'm not even sure who the actual winner is, because Kambosos goes on and is able to fight in his next fight for a world title, right? Big money and all that stuff, and an opportunity to become a 2-time world champion in a new weight class. But then his opponent, on Monday, he's gonna get a contract from Matchroom. So. Props to him.
Yeah, I mean, for Wyllie, I mean, he definitely lost the fight, and it was unanimous, a good spread on the scorecards, but he hurt Kambosos a couple of times.
He caught him too.
There was an accidental headbutt that occurred, and Kambosos kind of he didn't really know what to do for a second, and Wyllie stepped up on him and started landing some heavy blows. So. Good on him, but that doesn't really look that good for George Kambosos if he's pushing for a title fight.
So yes, officially George Kambosos returns, makes his official debut at 140, and is 1 foot in for a title shot for the IBF champion Richardson Hitchins sometime in the summer, both managed by Eddie Hearn. So maybe we might get a new champion at the 140 in George Kambosos if he's able to pull off the upset against Hitchins during the summer. But now moving forth to this upcoming week's rematch featuring William Zepeda, the current interim title holder for the WBC at 135, taking on Zepeda-Farmer. And the last time we saw them fight was back in the Saudi, and a very controversial fight. Zepeda-Farmer, of all people, knocked down William Zepeda and was able to not be fazed by the power or output that Zepeda usually drowns his opponents in, and came out losing the fight, but many claimed that it was a robbery. So in order to close all doubts, they're having a rematch, and William Zepeda looks to try to clear those demons, saying, "Oh, you lost the fight, you got dropped, you didn't look good, you're a fraud." So William Zepeda looks to kind of make things right and to continue his campaign towards a world title shot against Shakur Stevenson.
Listen, I'm praying for Zepeda, man. I'm praying for Zepeda. I like him, and I've been a fan of him, and I don't know what happened last time. I'm still shocked. Like, just even thinking about what happened last fight, I really can't even make sense of what happened. I don't know if it was. I don't want to give excuses, to Zepeda, but Zepeda-Farmer, he fought a great fight, a fantastic fight, and I did not think he was going to be able to stand up to the boogeyman of Zepeda, but it seemed like he exposed him. It seemed like all the hype was really for nothing, and we needed this rematch. I think it was a necessity. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm praying that Zepeda gets it done.
Yeah, to be honest, dude, my heart wants to go for Zepeda. And when they first fought last year, I was going for Zepeda. I was like, oh wow, this is just a really easy tune-up fight against a southpaw. So then, Zepeda beats the southpaw, and then he's gonna fight Shakur Stevenson, right? I thought that's how the ball was gonna roll. And yeah, no, dude, Tevin Farmer just came in with the best game plan ever. Like, he not only did he just fight Zepeda's fight, but he almost beat him in his own fight. Like, he was fighting inside the pocket, close to mid-range, and he was beating him. And to me, it was so crazy that the fact that a guy who has almost no knockout power was able to drop Zepeda, a guy who, has anyone else dropped him? I mean, in all the fights that I've seen him since he's came up to the big stage, I've never seen anyone stumble, rock him, or even much less drop him. So for someone like Farmer to drop him like that, I was kind of genuinely surprised. But now with this upcoming rematch, I'm not sure how this fight is going to go. I mean, I want to say Zepeda, but I mean, you can't count out Farmer because, I mean, up until that point, I had no idea that Farmer was fighting. I thought he had retired almost.
No, I mean, I believe, if I remember correctly, his last fight was against Murataya.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he fought Murataya, and Murataya, I mean, he didn't make easy work, but it was a clear victory for Murataya. So, like, and also, this was the time Tevin Farmer moved up to that weight class, to 135. He was not fighting at that weight class. Moved up to Murataya, obviously.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Looked good, looked amazing against him. And he goes up against Zepeda. I'm thinking, like, this is easy work. This is meat. But no. So I don't know. I mean, it's so dumbfounding to even think about. But I think I don't know. We'll see. I literally don't know how this fight's gonna play out.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I think Zepeda has to perform well because there's always been talks about who would win, Shakur or William Zepeda. And William Zepeda is the interim title holder for the WBC, next in line to fight Shakur. But this last fight against Farmer pretty much kind of sealed it. They were like, there's no way he beats Shakur. And now, after Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach, more people are inclined to fight Gervonta Davis. And Shakur is one of the guys who kind of wants to push for that fight too. And it looks like if William Zepeda doesn't prove himself in this against Tevin Farmer, or maybe even in his next following fight after, that Shakur is just going to leave him in the dust. And he's going to try to look for unifications against the other champions and not really pay attention to Zepeda. So Zepeda has to win this Saturday. I think he will win because they're fighting in Mexico. They're fighting Cancun. So if it's
hell yeah.
If it's another close fight, the home advantage is gonna go for William Zepeda. So I think he's gonna get the win regardless, even if he looks bad. But no, Zepeda definitely, to be serious, has to put up a huge performance this weekend. And if he's not able to do it, if he's into a close fight again with Tevin Farmer, oh man, people are gonna bash him. They're gonna say you're not gonna be a match for a fighter like Shakur or for any of the champions at 135. Maybe Lomachenko, because Lomachenko is not really there. Mm-hmm. But I mean, Gervonta, Keyshawn, they might make mincemeat out of Zepeda if he's not able to show that, okay, what happened the first time against Tevin Farmer was a bit of a fluke. It wasn't really me. Therefore, look at this rematch. I'm about to do Tevin Farmer easy. So I think all the pressure is on Zepeda, and he and his team know it, that they need to perform well in order to at least get a big title shot against the big name at 135.
Yeah, he has to give us hope. He's got to give the fans hope, and it's gonna take a lot. You can't just get a little victory over Tevin Farmer. We're expecting there's a standard for Zepeda that we set for him, which is that he's a dangerous top guy that's people are denying a world title fight for, but according to his last fight, that's not what it seemed. So he has to give a good performance. I think he has to get a knockout to really seal the deal. Mm-hmm. If he wants to get all the fans riled up and start galvanizing for him, saying, yeah, let's go, let's fight Shakur Stevenson. I think he needs a knockout, or at least a stoppage.
Yeah, for me, he has to get rid of those demons, because I mean, I'm one of those people that was just leaning towards Zepeda if he were to fight Shakur. But after that performance against Farmer, I was like, I'm not even sure, because now it just seems as though if you just have a little bit of a ring IQ and you're a southpaw and you're able to manage his output, then maybe you have a pretty good chance of beating this guy. And Shakur is just has such a high ring IQ, and he's just. It's almost as though he's 2 steps ahead of his opponent. So, I mean, I figure that, if he's not able to beat Farmer, then, he's not going to be able to beat Shakur. So, for sure, he needs to just prove to us prove to the fans that that first fight was just a fluke, and get the ball rolling for bigger and better fights at 135.
Yeah, William Zepeda definitely has to step it up. Like you said, he has to give us hope that there has to be some improvement in his game, going past the obstacles that he faced in the first fight. Do you guys have any official predictions for this rematch?
I mean, I'm a little bit biased already. I mean, listen, I don't know. I mean, I can't decide whether or not it was a fluke or it wasn't a fluke. I think Tevin Farmer, he's gonna come in like even more confident. He came into the first fight already feeling himself. Because he's a former world champion. This guy's no slouch. But he was coming off of a loss. Maybe that played a little bit, and he still performed amazing. He's coming into this fight, to win, because he wins this fight, like he's interim now, and he's up there to get a world title shot in the next couple of fights, maybe next 2 fights. So very, very big fight. I think Zepeda's gonna win. I do. It's gonna be decision though. I don't think he's gonna get the KO.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, one thing that kind of surprised me is that they're gonna fight in Mexico, so that just almost signals to me that Farmer is even more confident now going into the rematch, because if he's willing to fight Zepeda on neutral ground and then in the rematch go and fight him in his own home country, that almost speaks a lot. That almost speaks, that kind of is a surprise to me. But man, I want Zepeda to win because I feel like it would be better for boxing. It'd be better for that division. Just having Zepeda up there with some of these other world champions, and he just has an exciting, a fan friendly type of a style that I think a lot of people just like to see. So, but yeah, I'm gonna go Zepeda decision.
Zepeda, yeah, I think Zepeda's gonna get the win. Fighting in Cancun, fighting in Mexico, regardless of a shitty performance, they're gonna give it to him. So, put your money on Zepeda to get the win. Stoppage, it'll be big if he gets a stoppage, and I think he does really need a stoppage. And if he's not able to get a stoppage, then he needs a very clear scorecard win over Tevin Farmer. I just think Zepeda really needs to kind of up this performance and showcase that, yeah, like I said, the first fight was a fluke. This is the real me. This is the real Zepeda with the high volume, the high pressure, and the one who makes his opponents drown in deep waters. Yeah. So Zepeda really needs to come out and showcase all those skills that he was showcasing prior to the first Tevin Farmer fight. I think Zepeda's going to get a decision win over Tevin Farmer. I think it's going to mostly be like majority, maybe UD in that area. If it's another split, that's going to be crazy. And I know they're going to give it to Zepeda. But yeah, Zepeda, I think, will come out on top this weekend. And hopefully after this win, he's able to maybe fight for against another top 10 contender, or maybe get a shot at Shakur if Shakur is waiting in line for Gervonta. We know Gervonta is more inclined to give Lamont Roach the rematch. So if Shakur doesn't want to wait too long, he might get in the ring, hopefully with Zepeda. I mean, if the WBC does their job and enforce the damn fight to happen. So we'll see what happens this Saturday. But I think we're all in agreement that William Zepeda should come out on top, but who knows, man? Maybe Tevin Farmer has one more trick up his sleeve, and he might actually pull off the upset. And if he does, that's gonna be a huge shock, man. Yeah. Huge shock. But I think we covered everything we wanted to cover for today. Let us know.
Well, actually, I think the Last Round podcast wants to give a shout out to Big George.
A shout out.
Yeah, shout out. Who sadly passed away earlier this week at the young age of 76. I think he was the last pillar of that era, with Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, and then George Foreman was the last one to go. So I don't know if you want to pay tribute.
Hell yeah, it was a sad day on Saturday, man. When the family announced that on Friday. Yeah, but it was Friday. Yeah. That the family announced that George Foreman was gone. I think the best way to pay homage is put something on that Foreman grill and start grilling,
Yeah, I saw a lot of people saying like, everyone during the 90s and 2000s had a Foreman grill, man.
Yeah.
So R.I.P. George Foreman, like you said, last pillar of the heavyweight era, what many consider to be the greatest heavyweight era in all of boxing. So R.I.P. to a legend, the heavy-handed George Foreman. But Like I said, let us know down below your thoughts on the rematch between Tevin Farmer and William Zepeda. Also about the return of George Kambosos. Do you think he beats Hitchins? Do you think that Subriel Matias should be the one getting the actual shot? Also about the 154, Sebastian Fundora. Do you think he has enough in his arsenal to defend his unification against the other top contenders or against the other champions in that very heated and stacked 154? Let us know your thoughts on the comment section down below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on all forms of social media. We're on X, TikTok, and Instagram. Lastly, we have a Discord. We're trying to build up a community, and you guys joining would be greatly appreciated. But this was Pablo, and I'm with Rudo and Asa, and this was the Last Round Podcast. Thank you for watching.